Hey, good morning. How are
I'm
you?
good. How are you?
I can't complain. I can't complain at all. Jennifer Hazelton, the communication director. Now, she is official, folks out there. She is officially with the Donald Trump campaign, and she is the Georgia communication director. I myself am unofficial, want to be clear. I am the unofficial Donald Trump campaign advisor. BKP, BKP advises DJT. I'm unofficial. I'm unofficial. Jennifer's official. How are you this
I'm
morning?
fine. I'm doing well. How's everybody in North Georgia today?
Everybody's great, but we're waiting to hear from you in the Trump campaign, and I love having you on because I know you before you became part of the Trump campaign, and I know you're just going to shoot straight with us, and you're going to give us some direct answers. I do not believe Georgia's in play, but what does the campaign think this morning with some of the narrative in the media trying to bring Georgia back in play and telling a national audience that Georgia's in play, Jennifer?
We still think that we've got the state is still solidly in Mr. Trump's camp and solidly Republican. But I will say that we haven't gotten any polling data in the last week or so. So it's not as if I have any new numbers to point to where I can say, see, look at this poll, it confirms. But that it does not feel to us that anything has changed. And this is far from being scientific, but they're having the Georgia State Fair is going on right now in Perry. And the Secretary of State's office has an unofficial peanut poll where people attending the fair can cast their votes for whoever their preference is for president. And when I checked it out last night, again, this is an unofficial poll. It's not scientific. It's just people who come to the fair and want to cast their opinion. Mr. Trump had over 10,000 votes as of last night, and Hillary Clinton only had 2,500. So, if that's anything to go on, I mean, that's, between, a margin of between 4 and 5 to 1. So, I think we're still in good shape.
Let me ask you this. I actually watched two Donald Trump campaign speeches yesterday. The one in Ocala and the one in Lakeland, Florida. And I have to tell you, Stanima, when he brings it up, I know they keep saying, well, this is sexist because he's saying Hillary Clinton doesn't have the Stanima. She is doing these 20-minute campaign speeches, 20 minutes, and it sounds like they're coming out of middle school gymnasiums, these loud middle school gymnasiums. There's not big crowds, and Donald Trump is doing these hour and an hour and a half in 100 and some degrees with massive crowds. I mean, tell me how excited the campaign is about his stops and the crowds you're seeing show
Well,
up.
I watched that speech in Ocala yesterday, and he absolutely nailed it. I mean, he just knocked it out of the
Yes,
park. And like you said, I think he went, I did not time it, but I think he went over an hour. And, it
yes.
was a hanger. It looked like a hanger to me. I may not have that correct, but it looked like a hanger on TV. And it was packed to the gills with people. He made a comment about how hot it was in there, but he was, didn't matter. He was continuing on. And I'm much younger than Mr. Trump, and I was watching it thinking, good grief, how many people could really do that? How many people, even people my age, could stand up there with that amount of energy in that kind of environment and go for that long of a time? I mean, it really is amazing what the guy can do. But the crowd size, we have been getting huge crowds like this all the way down the line. So I think the one we had the night before in Panama City, I think if I remember correctly, I heard there were 20,000 people in the arena and they had to turn 10,000 people away. I mean, those are astonishing numbers. And I was watching, Fox News not that long ago, and Jennifer Griffin, who is covering the Hillary Clinton campaign, reported that the average crowd size for Hillary is about, I think she said about 300 people on the low end and 1,500 people on the high end. And you compare that to Mr. Trump's crowds of 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, and that doesn't even count the people who can't get in the doors. And we do have a pretty significant difference in enthusiasm.
Well, let me ask you another question. I mean, I watched Um, I watched MSNBC. I always have to make that admission of guilt every day on the show at 6 a.m. this morning. And I watched till 7, and not one reference of the emails that refer to Catholics, refer to Latinos, not one WikiLeaks email, not one. I mean, they ran a whole hour. Of how Donald Trump. I do believe the media thinks the focus they have to do to win this for Hillary is women. And I really believe that's what they think they have to do to bring this across the line. I'm talking to you. What do you think? How upsetting is it that, this news is not getting out?
Well, it is, it's right out of the playbook, right? I mean, it's right out of the mainstream media playbook. I mean, they are, for all intents and purposes, operating as part of her campaign. And you can't tell me that they're not coordinating this stuff. And it definitely seems to be a case where every time another leak from WikiLeaks or whatever hacker comes out, their response is to immediately try to quash it by coming up with some fabricated allegation, on our side. And it's really calculating. It's really transparent, and it's really sad that that this is where we are in America today. That the press is now an extension of a political party. I think we saw that evidence of that in the latest round of WikiLeaks, when there was an email with Donna Brazile admitting that she was feeding questions, using her position at CNN as a paid contributor to get questions that were going to be asked of Hillary Clinton, and then feeding them to her before the event, so she knew exactly how to answer. And and her opponent, Bernie Sanders, was not afforded that same courtesy. And so I think we're seeing, exactly, it's kind of like the great and powerful Oz, and the curtain is being lifted for the American people. And I really hope they're paying attention, because.
Well, go ahead, Jennifer. I'm sorry.
Because this is not funny anymore. I mean, the way that they are colluding, the mainstream press is colluding with the Democratic Party in order to drag her across the finish line, or attempt to. It's not funny. And the allegations, the evidence, if the evidence proves to be actually validated from these leaks, where it looks like the Clinton campaign was colluding with the State Department and the Justice Department and the Obama White House in order to, quash everything she's got going on with her emails. This isn't funny anymore. I mean, this gets to the foundation of our government, and it gets to the foundation of our Constitution. And I really hope people are paying attention to that. And I hope that they're not going to take the bait on these fabricated stories that they're making up about Mr. Trump in order to distract from some very real and very troubling things going on with our government as it stands right now. When Mr. Trump said months ago that the system is rigged, I think we're seeing a lot of evidence that he's correct.
It is rigged. Going off that, it is. I appreciate you saying it. I mean, we should be just shocked this morning. It should be the headlines. It should be on the front page of every paper. Department of Justice, FBI, Department of Justice, all of these branches and departments in collusion with the campaign and the email scandal. I mean, this should be front page, but I'm looking at the New York Times, and I'm looking at the Post, and all of these front pages saying that some lady, and no disrespect, this morning said that 30 years ago, Donald Trump made an advance on her. That is the front page of everything this morning. And what you just said, you articulated it very well. You just laid it out.
Well, and I am not a person who gets afforded the opportunity to fly first class all that often. But when I have, last time I checked, you can't move the console in the middle seats in first class. They don't move. And, I read The Art of the Deal years ago, I think maybe 10 years ago. And that book was written in the 80s, if I'm not mistaken. And when he wrote that book, there's a whole chapter, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, it's been a long time since I read the book, but there was a whole chapter on him buying his first private jet and the deal that he got and how he got it. So was he even flying commercial airlines at that time?
That's what I said today on the show. I said, why was he slumming in first class? I mean, why wasn't he on Trump Force One? Why wasn't he on his helicopter? I agree with you.
And then, there was one, I watch MSNBC in the mornings too, just like you do. And I'm pretty sure I saw this morning that they said that the reporter, I think it was with People magazine, will not be talking to media about the story that she wrote. Well, really, why wouldn't she? Let's try to figure out why that might be. Why would she sort of drop and hide? I mean,
Jennifer, there's a GoFundMe page. GoFundMe. A GoFundMe campaign will pay your legal fees if you could tattle on Donald Trump. That's set up. They'll pay your legal fees. I mean, this is just as, I can't believe what is going on. Let me ask you another question. I want to go another question here. The Trump campaign, you talked about Donna Brazile, and I want to just touch that for a minute. She actually, we're finding out, sent the question over to Hillary Clinton's campaign, and then miraculously, the very next night on CNN in the town hall, Hillary got the question word for word. So let me say this. I've always said there's suspicion in the air that the Times was able to release Donald Trump's tax return on a Friday, or they received it on a Friday. The debate was Monday. Somehow Hillary got the tax question in there and then actually got to say, well, even if you paid any taxes, Donald, and then Tuesday, the tax thing comes out. I mean, I'm telling you, I don't even think this first thing with Donna Brazile is the only thing that took place.
Well, I said it when that Access Hollywood tape dropped. I mean, the minute it happened, it was literally, so close to that latest round of WikiLeaks leaks at that time. And it's like, well, now we've got the strategy. Now we know what the Clinton strategy is. Anytime there are going to be leaks, they probably know and are worried about what's out there and what these hackers have their hands on. And they have devised a strategy that anytime some independent hackers, unaffiliated with any of the political campaigns, including the Trump campaign, releases leaks about the Clinton administration about the Clinton campaign and about the Obama administration, their response is going to come up with some tawdry fake allegation and try to drop that on the American people to distract them from the real issues. And that's the pattern. And we saw it play out again yesterday. That's exactly what they're trying to do. And so, I just hope the American people are paying attention and they don't fall for it, because that's the worst thing that we can do. It's a distraction technique. Look at the shiny object over here, so you're not paying attention to what's really important right in front of you.
Jennifer, what do you the campaign, I personally like this, but do you think it's playing well? What are you hearing in the campaign? Do you think it's playing well for Donald Trump to say that he's going to have a special prosecutor investigate her situation and also investigate the investigation? And that's playing well with me, but they say that it's going to play well with me, but it's not going to play well with others. So what do you think, or what does the campaign think about the direction you guys have gone in?
I hear from Democrats that even they know that Hillary Clinton is corrupt, but their view is that they're going to vote for her because even if she's corrupt, they still think, they're still more in alignment with her views than they are with the views of the Republican Party. And to me, that's sad. To me, it's sad that they would knowingly and willingly cast their vote for somebody who has so clearly lied, who has so clearly gamed the system. And I think that call for an independent special prosecutor, I think we need that. I mean, I think in order to have any sort of faith in our government and faith that there can be an independent investigation that will be unbiased and will be nonpartisan for corruption on either side, whether it's future corruption on behalf of the Democratic Party or future corruption on behalf of the Republican Party, Americans need to know that there's something that works. that the FBI, can be trusted to go in and leave all partisanship to the side and do their jobs, or that the Justice Department, even if it's controlled by a Democratic White House, will do its job. And, that's why I think that I would be hard pressed to believe that all Americans wouldn't welcome that, because if we don't have faith that our government can investigate itself, if we don't have faith that some allegations as serious as this can be exposed and brought to light and proven true or disproven with impartiality, then what have we got? So I just find it hard to believe that, that it would turn off Democrats and even independents, because don't we all want to know that our government has the capacity to root out corruption?
Well, let me go back to polling in what short time. There's two things I want to wrap up with you before we get closed today at our 10 o'clock hour. Polling, I for one don't trust the polling. I don't believe that Donald Trump pivot and had 2 good weeks and was leading in several polls, and then this tape comes out and he's losing, or he had a bad debate. I am not one for, I would be okay if the polls were bouncing in the 2-point range, but on one day when somebody's up 7 and the next day they're down 2 and then the next week they're up 10, I keep wondering, who are these people? I, for one, don't trust the polling. Internally in the campaign, how do you guys feel? And I know you can only speak for Georgia, but how do you guys feel? And also with the media trying to say that some states are out of play now.
It's hard to know. I mean, it's hard to know. What we wonder is, are these polls really capturing, a lot of times they're polling likely voters, which are people who voted in the last cycle. How many people are they not capturing because they've chosen to sit the last couple cycles out? I'd like to be able to sit and tell you about, whether or not we have certainty, but the polls are really, is only as good as the people conducting them. They're only as good as the sample sizes. They're only as good as, the willingness of the people they're asking to participate. I mean, we saw that with Brexit, right? People either just didn't tell the truth, or they just didn't answer. And so, we've talked about this before. I think people in the UK went in, and the polls the morning of the Brexit vote had Remain up by 6, and they ended up losing by, 4 to 6 points? I can't remember the poll.
Right.
So, and there we go. And the conclusion that the British media drew was that people weren't telling the pollsters what they really thought. So do we have some of that going on? I just don't. I think in Georgia we feel pretty good about where we are. Nationwide, it's hard for me to tell you, whether the polls are accurately reflecting the race or not.
But you feel good in Georgia. I still feel strongly we're up. I feel strongly we're up in Georgia, and Georgia has never been in play, and that's all media front. I know you can't speak to other states, but why I have you on the phone? This is Jennifer Hazelton. Jennifer Hazelton is the communication director for the Trump campaign in the state of Georgia. Can only speak to Georgia. But Jennifer, on the Sunday shows, and you and I share a lot of similar interests. I don't know how many of the Sunday shows, but this past Sunday was the how many Republicans pulled their support from Donald Trump Sunday on the morning shows. They were enjoying that. And one of them was Congressman Charlie Dent, which is in the Tuesday group. I think you and I know who the Tuesday group is, but Charlie Dent is in the Tuesday group. He is the Republican congressman in the district in Pennsylvania. He went on the morning shows asking Donald Trump to pull out of the race, asking him to pull out of the race. And I just thought it's interesting. Tonight at the Northampton County Republican Chairman dinner, Jennifer, Charlie Dent has to sit next to Mike Pence. So I just love that because, and my brother, and I'll have a report Monday, my brother set up to ask Charlie Dent some questions tonight at that dinner. But for one, I don't see where the Trump campaign has pulled out or given up on Pennsylvania at this time. So I know you can't speak to any of that, but I think the media, what they have done, we haven't had any, let's wrap up with say we haven't had anybody in Georgia pull their support for Donald Trump. Is that correct, Jennifer?
Correct. Everybody holding firm.
Everybody's holding firm. So we don't have any reports this morning in Georgia that anybody has pulled out their support for Donald Trump. They're holding firm. And Jennifer, I even think some people tried to get back on the ship yesterday. I heard rumor that a couple of Republicans tried.
Yes, that did happen. And Mr. Trump is the people's choice. He is, like he says, this is not a campaign, it's a movement. And it's a movement to try to get our government back and to break up this corrupt system that has existed in Washington, D.C. for far too long. And it is a movement to, get rid of the rigged system that only helps the few and the connected, and it leaves the rest of us on the sidelines. And that system has gone on for far too long. I mean, you mentioned just the energy from him yesterday at his 2 campaign events in Florida. I mean, Brian, if we look at it, here's a man who has secured the financial future for generations of his family. And, they all work, which is a testament to them, but they don't have to. He doesn't have to. And he would be, very well within his right to spend, the remainder of his life at one of his beautiful resorts, or traveling the world with his beautiful wife, or taking it easy, or even just running his own business as he sees fit and getting his kids, to the point where they can take it over and then leaving it in their hands. But he's not. He's deciding to take this on at this point in his life. I don't know that there's anybody out there with his position in life that would take on this level of responsibility and a job this tough. And here he is. He's out there trying to do it for us. And, I think we all need to look at that and maybe give him some credit that his words are true when he says, like, that he, who else but someone like him could do what he's done and potentially break up the system. It would take a Trump to be able to go in and actually win a presidential election with no prior experience, no party backing, win the nomination, and then get it across the finish line. I don't really know. I can't really think of anybody else who fits the bill, who could pull this off besides him.
Well, Jennifer, we appreciate you. We know you have to go from one interview to another, and we appreciate your hard work. We want to get you back on here real soon, and we thank you for that. And we have to run and get our next show ready to go at 10 o'clock. And I always thank you, and don't hesitate. Send me emails or text me if anything's breaking or going on, so we can get it to our viewers.
Okay, we'll do. Y'all have a good morning.
That's Jennifer Hazelton. We're right up at 10 o'clock, but I do have a closing statement I have to make before I get George in here. I'm sorry to George for running a minute late, but that's Jennifer Hazelton. She's the communications director for the Trump campaign in the state of Georgia. I am your host, BKP. Good morning from the office, North Georgia's only live online morning show. Let me have just 1 minute of your time. Millions and millions and millions of Americans will go out and buy tickets to go to a concert to watch Beyonce grab her crotch. I'm serious. I mean, they will. Millions will go out. They're not offended by it. To watch these people, if they're on stage and they're called entertainers and they grab their crotch, they will pay big money, good money to watch that. I, for one, don't think they're offended by that. And I want to close with something that may offend you. Okay? And I've not said this word, and I've been thinking and thinking and thinking, should I say it, should I say it? It's all over the internet. Everybody's talking about it, okay? And I have not said the word pussy since this video came out. I've not said it one time. And I've thought to myself, I should not say this, okay? I should not say this, all right? But let me tell you something. If Hillary Clinton gets elected, they'll have to put signs up down every hallway and every corridor of the White House that blank grabbing is forbidden. And it won't just be for Bill. I'll see you tomorrow morning at 8 a.m.